just to make better technology, because we all know that technology without a purpose is pointless. What we are doing is working to make technology that works better for us. Technology that can be applied to our everyday life with a positive impact on society. It can be a big innovation or a small achievement that makes a huge difference. We are working on game-changing solutions that make our days easier, allowing us to save time and money. We are working to make public services more agile and effective, and businesses more efficient and profitable. We are working to make Europe an even better place to live and work. Join us at Digital Public, where we are working to make our lives better.
A very good morning to all of you joining us today for day 2 of DigitALL Public, where we're talking about collaboration and the future of Europe and making it more digital for every European citizen. I'm Jennifer Baker. I am one of your moderators today, and joining me is Max Strottmann, who will be helping us through today, looking at all your questions, which we do want you to send in. A quick word of reminder for those of you who were not here yesterday, you can use the platform. There's a tab on the right of your screen where you can use the chat function to send questions, comments, and your thoughts to our great speakers today. You can also use that to set up meetings with your fellow participants. There's a networking area. There's an awful lot going on, so use the breaks to explore the platform and get the most out of it. It's a shame we can't all meet in person, times being what they are, but we've made this digital event as interactive and as engaging as possible. There's also a parallel stage, but I'm going to let Max tell you a little bit about what's happening there today.
Jen, thanks a lot. Yeah, and you said a word just before, you said today it is all about collaboration in practice. And remember, yesterday, this was a big thing, saying we need to get things changing on the ground, and we can only do this together. This was in the session about the presidencies, from the presidencies in the EU to the international session yesterday. And today it is all about collaboration and cooperation on the ground. We have 8 parallel sections where communities are coming together to get things changing and happening on stuff like digital-ready policymaking. That's already going on now. You can still join. About the join-up platform and its future. About open source repository. About Ref2Link. That's legal stuff, deep legal stuff. Semantic toolchain. E-signature, e-delivery, and the National Interoperability Framework Observatory. All happening today together with a series of networking sessions also on these themes. So today, cooperation, collaboration on the ground, communities. The program today goes from skills, we'll kick it off now, to open source cooperation. Communities are central to that, to smart communities and cities, and then trust around EIDAS, the EID cooperation across Europe, before we move to the Lisbon Council's event that is embedded into our program that is all about co-creation. Stay with us throughout the day. No?
Absolutely. Thank you very much. As you said, on those parallel sessions, already started actually, is key enablers of digital-ready policymaking. So jump over to that if you want to. Remember, share on social media. We want this to reach the wider public, not just the internal bubble. Use the hashtag DigitAllPublic. And with that, I will hand over to our first keynote speaker of the day. You mentioned skills. The title is Competencies for the Transformation of the Public Sector. And we are delighted to welcome Professor Ines Mergel, Public Administration Professor at the University of Konstanz, and also a Fellow at the National Academy of Public Administration in the US. Thank you very much, Professor. The floor is yours.
Thank you so much, and good morning to everyone. Very delighted to be here. For the next 15 minutes or so, I will be sharing some of the high-level findings of 3 different projects. 2 of them were funded by the European Commission, so I want to briefly acknowledge them. So the first one is the EU COVA project, a Horizon 2020 project, where we set out to understand how digital transformation is happening in Europe right now. The second one is a project funded through the Interoperability Academy, where we look at how are skills actually developed formally through training units across the member states, and then a third project that I started and decided to join that's called Teaching Public Service in the Digital Age. It's an open access syllabus that we created so that everyone who is listening can just grab the content and make it their own, contextualize it, internationalize it for themselves. As a starting point, I think it would be useful to look at what came out of the COWA project, where we basically try to understand what are the maturity stages that we have and that we see right now in member states and how their public administrations are tackling the digital era. And what we've identified are three different layers, basically, or phases of maturity. The first one is what we can call digitization. It's just purely moving forms, paper forms online as a PDF file. People are downloading it, actually sitting at home, filling it out on paper because they have to print it and then walk it into an agency. And then they're sitting in front of a civil servant who is then typing it into a computer for them. So it's certainly the first level of digitization, but not interactive at all. Digitalization, and this is certainly something in terms of semantics that we can distinguish mostly in the English language, is where we focus on moving those forms into electronic files where citizens can access them 24/7 from home, actually type everything in themselves, and it's then automatically transferred and a process is started, an administrative process or an application, for example. The third stage, and this is what we are looking at mostly now, and that's also the term that has become mainstream, is then digital transformation. But not everything that we do with digital government is actually transformative in nature. So what we understand with this most recent phase is a true holistic process where public administrations, together with users, human-centric designers, and IT service providers, are rethinking the logic and how we deliver public services. And as a result, we might have organizational changes. Administrative processes are completely rethought, aligned with user needs, internal and external users. And we might even change the relationships with the users that we have. We also then demand a completely different skill set from public servants because they have to be involved in these processes. It's no longer that they are simply setting out the requirements, sending them to the legal office to then set up contracts. Instead, it's them being directly involved in short sprints in defining needs that they have with their professional skills, but then also understanding the needs of their stakeholders and how they want to interact with government. So a complete reversal of how civil servants are also involved. And that also means that in this new digital universe, we see new opportunities in how and what a well-rounded civil servant then actually needs in terms of the skills and competencies that are necessary, because lots of the things that were new last year might no longer be new this year and are even obsolete. And so it makes it difficult right now to agree on the status quo. And I think that's also where we see lots of development happening. So internationally, and this is on the left side of the screen, we see lots of those types of digital academies pop up. They can be embedded within civil service colleges, like in Singapore, or the Canadian School of Public Service has its own digital academy. But what we also see are other things like opportunities where governments are creating their own digital service team outside the traditional logic of the CIO's office, that have noticed that we need new forms of skills to come into government. And so fellowships like Tech for Germany or Work for Germany are created where people come in a short stint, just 6 months, with very new forms of skills that they have, and they bring that into government and work on projects and tandems with people. And so I set out in this other project that was funded through the Interoperable Academy to look at the EU member member states and what their training units are doing right now. And I want to share some of the high-level findings with you. This is very generalized, and certainly there are exceptions to this. But what we noticed is that there is a general lack of a digital competency framework for public administrators. So usually people are using the digital competency framework for citizens, and then are trying to adapt it, but are not sure if this is truly what is needed. And then we have still this type of thinking that digital era skills are regarded as specialized skills that IT vendors have, that IT specialists have. And so training is then outsourced to external vendors, but is not kept in-house. And it's not regarded as a generalized skill that all civil servants need to have. Usually there's a fixed training catalog that's very reactively adapted, rarely true digital era skills and competencies that go beyond the basic digital literacy, Excel and these kinds of things. And so during the pandemic, the interviews were done during the first year of the pandemic, was that digital delivery was focused on analog content of the existing training catalog. And then additionally, people focused on how to use online collaboration and video conferencing tools. And so this bothered me in the sense that I think we are losing the opportunity to have a grip on what we think in public administrations is necessary to actually create a well-rounded public servant who has the skills to speak on eye level with IT service providers and rethinks what is actually necessary. And so we created this new project that is called Teaching Public Servants in the Digital Age. And we created 8 competencies and a syllabus with training units. 18 universities are participating, lots of civil servants who are very much emphasizing on these things. We did expert interviews, we did focus groups based on the content that we created and expert validations, and also taught these skills in 3 different countries, in 3 different types of bureaucracies as well. So very much contextualized and localized. And they are all up online, so you can grab them. And I want to briefly talk about what these 8 skills are that I believe are necessary for well-rounded public servants of the digital era. So the first skill is about user centricity. So public servants need to understand that the logic is changing right now. We need to understand that users are not the professional civil servants themselves solely, but they are also in the digital era, obviously the citizens, other types of stakeholders. So when a service is poorly designed, then users won't use it. And this shouldn't be the ultimate goal of investing so much in digital right now. Obviously, civil servants also need to understand and mitigate the risks that are associated with new technologies. So understand what privacy, security, and ethical risks are. And then be able to work in multidisciplinary teams. We see lots of new types of skills coming into government, like human-centric designers, for example. And so we need to blend the traditional public service skills with modern digital skills so that these teams can work effectively together. And we are not just coming back into the process when an IT service provider delivers a product a year later. Iteration is a new way of project management. It's all about learning in the process and being part of the process, and continuously rethinking our own assumption of what citizens or users actually need. And it's about then learning from this instead of waterfalling and then noticing, oh, it doesn't work months and months later. The next set of skills focus on change management, and especially the barriers to change management. And here, civil servants need to be able to identify opportunities that come with new technologies, but also then understand when they are suggesting them, how they can overcome structural and institutional barriers that might come with these changing opportunities. The next competency is openness, or what is also known as working in the open. By that, I don't mean the traditional way of how we think about open government, which is obviously great, but this is about when you develop things and when you have come through all those processes and have overcome structural, institutional, legal, political obstacles, then talk about it and make sure that others in government know about this as well and can replicate some of your successes. We see lots of very innovative civil servants do this, blog posting videos about this, tweeting about this. Again, this is not about social media and promoting what you do, but instead it's about learning from each other and not reinventing the wheel on a daily basis. The last set of competencies focus on data. Data is an important way of informing decisions, designing and running services, but oftentimes we work too much in silos and are not even aware what kind of data sets are already created in government and how they can potentially create public value. And the last one is about iteration and the affordances of new technologies. Here it's about understanding what the opportunities are, critically assess them, and then improve public outcomes. Lots of discussion is obviously surrounded right now by the ethics of artificial intelligence, blockchain, all these new technologies. So what are the affordances technologically and socially that then are created? So you see a set of new competencies that need to be developed. We have developed them on that page that I showed earlier. And now it's all about us trying to collectively work toward digital maturity of public administrations. The competencies that we describe and that are accompanied with training units are really designed to show how we can break down these competencies, how we should be teaching them, what our experiences are with them, and how we can add over time also new cases so that you know, when we teach leaders and generally public administrators, it needs to be gelling with their own needs, and it needs to be contextualized within their bureaucratic environments and their own realities to make them useful. So let's learn and change together how we train civil servants and help them also toward digital maturity of their own organizations. And with that, I'm out of time, and I thank you for your attention, and I look forward to your questions.
Ines, thank you so much. Vielen Dank. This was perfect. You were spot on, not only in time, but also I just marvel how you are capable of setting the scene for such a discussion and for such a day. Today, this is a tour de force and also a tour d'élégance. And I hope that the audience got why we are so happy having you as one of our core advisors, not only on skills and competences as you did today, but also on things that come tomorrow in a session, for example, on GovTech. Thank you so much. Don't go away, because you will stay with us for the next session.